Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Bernard, one of the co-chairs of the ConCENSUS working group, and I'm going to provide you with a quick update of the progress that we have made over the last year. So briefly, the terms of reference for our working group are a global method comparison to investigate the extent of interoperability of data collected by different methods. We want to advance best practices within the field of research, develop data management systems and tools to support the publication of data into global repositories such as OBIS. And then we want to determine priority areas for engagement and capacity development to strengthen the field of research. We've had quite a busy year. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these points. They are all in the annual reports. But the main activities or the main highlights were a regional research network meeting that was hosted in South Africa between the 8th and 11th of January. This focused on the BRUVs and stereo-BRUVs methods and brought together researchers from South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, Kenya, and the Seychelles, primarily to advance standardization and provide capacity development. We then also hosted an in-person meeting for the working group in Margaret River in Australia in May. There were 6 working group members who attended in person, and then we had an additional 11 virtual attendees. Here we focused on terms of reference 2, so the best practices, as well as the data management terms of reference, the terms of reference 3. And then we've also progressed with terms of reference 4, and we've developed and distributed an online questionnaire to survey the community and try and identify priority research needs and then better understand the extent of standardization and extent of collaboration within the global research network. For terms of reference 1, we have made considerable progress compiling the data sets. So we now have a database of over 372,000 samples from 91 countries all around the world, with the 3 main methods being the baited cameras, the visual census with scuba divers, and then the diver-operated video systems. With this data set, we've got 4 key papers that we are planning on writing, and they're all going to be looking at or dealing with different aspects of the key questions of terms of reference 1, which is looking at the extent of interoperability of the different methods and the complementarity of the different methods. For the best practices terms of reference, we have been working on a decision-making roadmap for underwater fish observation methods. The objective of this is going to be a tool that can help new researchers and students identify the best methods and best protocols to answer different research questions. We've developed a draft of this and the paper outline, and we're going to run through this at the IMC at a workshop that's going to be hosted at the International Marine Conservation Congress in October. And then we've also run through a process of assessing the maturity of existing practices. So recently, Mantovani et al. Published the Ocean Practice Maturity Model, and we have used this to run through the stereo-BRUV, stereo-DOV, ROV, Reef Life Survey, and reef.org methodologies to assess how mature they are relative to the standards proposed by that paper. Through this, we've identified a few deficiencies and a few areas where we can improve the best practices for our methods, and we've developed a remediation plan to deal with this. And then in addition to these 2 aspects, we've also been drafting guidelines for managing methodological change in long-term monitoring. And then we've contributed to the best practice documentations for stereo-ROV fish surveys. We've made considerable progress on the data management terms of reference. There has been work linking the large global repositories to OBIS, so Global Archive, Reef Life Survey, and reef.org. Global Archive is at the stage where they will be developing integrated publishing toolkits and testing the harvesting and publication of data to OBIS. For Reef Life Survey and reef.org, there needs to be further engagement with OBIS around the protocols for attribution of data use and the reporting of downloads and use of data. Once OBIS has this in place, both Reef Life Survey and reef.org will make their data available on the system. They've also made progress in documenting the standards and transformations. So it's the documentation of the OBIS schema for Global Archive, Reef Life Survey, and they are working on the documentation for reef. And then there's also been work on a tool for community members who want to convert small once-off data sets to Darwin Core without going through some of the major databases. And then for terms of reference 4, we have completed the epistemic analysis of the research landscape. And this basically tracks the scientific publications over the last 70 years, tracks development of the field of research, the extent of collaboration, and gaps and global gaps where research isn't taking place and capacity development is needed. This manuscript has been completed and is submitted for review. It's been submitted for publication. And then we have recently launched an online questionnaire for the global research community to survey the research methods used, the topics investigated, and the collaborations formed. This questionnaire was launched in September and will remain active until the end of 2024, after which the results will be analyzed and written up. In terms of our capacity development objectives, we have been working on a training course that will be hosted on the Ocean Teacher Global Academy. It has been registered on the system, and we plan to have it complete and ready for students by the beginning of February 2025. It'll have 5 modules, an introduction overview, and as well as 1 module for the key methodologies. Plans for the next 12 months. We've got our working group meeting in South Africa from the 7th to the 11th of October. In this meeting, we're going to focus on dealing with terms of reference 1 and advancing the research papers, as well as finalizing the Ocean Teacher Global Academy training course. And then we'll review progress of terms of references 2, 3, and 4. We have a workshop at the IMCC conference, so the International Marine Conservation Congress, on the 14th of October. And this will focus on best practices and knowledge mobilization within the field of research. And then we're going to have various online meetings to make sure that we are progressing with our different activities and advancing the terms of reference. Later in 2025, so between June and October, we're going to host another in-person meeting, and we'll align this with one of the international symposiums that are taking place at that time of year. And then we'll continue with online meetings. Yeah, so thanks very much. Again, we'd like to thank SCOR for the support and enabling this working group to bring the community together and advance some of our research objectives. Thanks.